This YouTuber faked his own death for clout and then showed up in a helicopter at his own funeral. And this TikToker pretended to have Tourette's until she got exposed in the wildest way possible.
Talk a little bit about wow. I want to talk wow.
And these are times streamers got caught faking disabilities, starting off with this TikToker who claimed to have Tourette's since the age of 6 and had accumulated well over 500,000 followers on TikTok, where she said she was raising awareness for Tourette's while also promoting her side business.
Oh God! Send me to Canada! Wow! It's too hot! Add the drugs.
But it was videos such as this next one that quickly got fingers pointed at her, as in a lot of her content the tics began to seem very forced, almost fake.
One, I wanted to talk a little bit about wow. I wanted to talk wow. I wanted to talk a little bit about wow.
And it was only from her secret old Facebook page Stardust Fiber that she got exposed in the most humiliating way possible. Though Emily had claimed to have Tourette's since she was 6, she didn't tic once in a 2-minute video uploaded to her Facebook.
I want to swallow all of you and replace my blood with yours. I am someone lost in the desert who sees you and doesn't give a shit about water anymore. You are the living embodiment of satisfaction itself.
And as she repeatedly got called out in the comments for it, she eventually responded to one, which said, "You should check out her YouTube Stardust Fiber Studio and take note of how she doesn't tic in any of her videos. Maybe you'll think twice." To which she replied saying that she doesn't tic too often, and it was possible for her to record a short video without ticking. Though that seemed like a solid response, it's kind of hard to believe, considering she almost never went 10 seconds without ticking in any of her TikToks. But if that wasn't enough, that's when her fans uncovered a 54-minute live stream without a single tic, completely invalidating her false persona. That's when her TikTok profile with 500,000 followers got instantly deleted, as she had managed to fool 500,000 people pretending to be disabled. And next is this TikToker who faked his own death, but as they got to his funeral, he showed up in a helicopter, leaving his entire family in disbelief. And though he claimed that it was meant to reveal who really cared about him, his fans saw it as a pathetic way of grabbing attention, labeling him the world's greatest narcissist. Nevertheless, the TikToker claimed he was also kind of disappointed, as only half of his family showed up. Moving on to Zilean, a popular Twitch streamer who gained a massive following by streaming games like World of Warcraft, and he was known for being wheelchair-bound due to what he claimed was a permanent disability, and he often spoke about his limited mobility on stream. But his whole act unraveled during a live stream when he stood up and walked off camera, completely forgetting that his webcam was still on.
Maybe like at the end of the expansion when it's easily outgeared. Oh my God.
And his girlfriend also panicked, and she proceeded to make up a story to try and cover it up somehow. And when Zilean noticed his blunder, he quickly turned down the camera.
Oh my God. We took our dog like to the fish shop today because the dog loves just like going out and meeting new people, and we constantly have to take him to like...
But it had already been too late, and following this, he was permanently banned from Twitch for fraud. But that was nothing compared to John Calabiano, who claimed he'd gotten into a workplace accident 2 years back, causing him to go blind. And his application for benefits said, "I sit in the dark and listen to TV. I can't move around the house much because I bump into things and hurt myself." But after getting a bunch of complaints, it wasn't long before government investigators caught him, literally reading on footage and even driving a car, putting an end to his scandal, through which he would have gotten about $1.3 million of taxpayers' money if he had successfully pulled it off. But that was nothing compared to Yao Cabrera, the pathetic YouTuber who faked his own death to millions of his followers just for more attention. Yao Cabrera was previously known for his prank videos and massive fraud schemes, where he'd scam his audience by promising projects in his YouTube videos and then deleting them, kind of like the Logan Paul of Argentina. But then he made a very convincing video faking his death, and here's the catch. When you went to the website for the footage, it would instead force you to install an app from the Play Store, which has since been removed for violating their terms of service. And here's the footage that fooled millions of his fans. And then his friends were even posting on Instagram, demanding his fans to honor him and march for him publicly. That's when he fooled thousands of people to go out in the streets mourning his death, and it was all just another prank to promote the scam application. And soon after, he was also arrested for violating the COVID lockdown. But nothing comes close to Dissociated, who allegedly fakes and manipulates dissociative identity disorder. And if you aren't already aware of it, DID is a mental health condition where a person develops two or more separate identities, usually due to childhood trauma. But Dissociated had raised a lot of eyebrows throughout her career.
The person will play playful tricks. There's a lot of back and forth and banter between me and Kaya that's often shown publicly because we're usually relatively close to each other in the front.
That's my character. I'm the trash man. I come out, I throw trash all over the ring, and then I start eating garbage. That's a real hot album, homie. I wonder who wrote it. Oh,
Through it all, she leveraged the disorder to build a multi-million following, where she'd upload TikToks regularly introducing new alters with different voices and characters, which kind of makes sense for someone with DID. But her content has raised a lot of suspicion even from her fan base.
I just had a massive shift in mood. I wasn't sure whether it was my own shift or whether it was from other alters. I feel in myself perfectly fine, but I've had a physical reaction to it and like an emotional reaction as well. But I don't know if you can see, usually we're very pale. I'm very flushed around my nose and my face.
And after taking a year-long break from YouTube, while still uploading TikToks and growing her following, she recently made a comeback to YouTube with a new narrative, claiming that some of her alters have now been fused.
Chloe was the original person or alter who started this channel, which then became the Dissociative Project. In, I believe, 2019, Chloe fused with another alter called Nina. When two or more alters fuse, it essentially means that instead of there being two alters, the dissociative barriers and amnesia barriers that are formed in the brain that makes those two parts of the consciousness separate start to degrade so that those two parts of the mind become one. In 2019, Chloe fused with our protector Nina to create Nin, who then became the system's host and additionally protector. Then in 2021, Nin fused with Kyle, who was our primary protector, to create Kaya, and Kaya was also then host and protector.
And this is how she explains it in full detail of how a fusion had been triggered among her alters after a fan showed up at her door, and though she refused to elaborate further on the incident, she claims that it apparently triggered a fusion, giving birth to two new identities.
So back in August of 2023, we were dealing with a crime. A stalker managed to find our address. We still have no real idea how. Flew from another country and intended to get into our house and essentially turned up outside our door. Obviously, that was quite re-traumatizing given our past and our history, which we're not going into, but unfortunately the feeling of being watched or filmed, stalked, a lot of watching and being on camera and stuff like that all became even more triggering than it already was before. And that meant that we were mid-fusion when we experienced a new trauma, which resulted in an extremely complicated fusing, splitting situation that we still don't completely understand. But essentially, an alter was starting to form from the fusion of Kaya and Mara. That alter that still wasn't completely themselves yet, because the fusion was still happening, split because of the new trauma. and resulted in 2 new alters.
And she almost treats discovering new alters like milestones, kind of bragging about it like it's a competition. And then she expands on how a previous demonic altar, which goes by the name Mara, got removed, and that it gave birth to a new peaceful altar named Soren. But nevertheless, fans were left confused, and the DID community itself expressed resentment, claiming she's made disabilities seem like a fun, quirky thing, and it takes away attention from people who are actually suffering and deserve support. I went into watching Dissociated after reading about their controversies, thinking, alright, she's a person right now, but maybe she's a legit survivor that is struggling with breaking free from the abusive behaviors she learned during her abuse, and she could get better. I made it through 5 of her most recent videos before understanding she's a complete fraud. So, the case with Dissociated remains controversial, mostly based on accusations from the DID community for now. But what's important is that people who are truly struggling with mental illness are the ones who deserve the care, attention, and space to be heard.